today I'm going to be talking about how I'm going to be creating my dream wardrobe. I love clothes, I love wearing clothes, I love styling clothes, but I also feel like I buy too much clothing. I feel like a lot of clothes that I own I don't really like, and that's just no good. And instead of making myself buy more clothes and get rid of more clothes, I'm going to be upcycling the clothes I currently have and altering them to become clothes that I really want. And I thought, why not share what I'm doing with other people so that if they want, they can do the same. Because it's honestly quite an easy thing to do. I've been doing this for years, and I'm just doing it to my closet massively right now. But this way I don't have to buy new clothes because I feel like I don't have enough clothing. When really I do have lots of clothes that I like. There are just some things I don't particularly like about each piece, which I'm going to be fixing. So I'm going to go through a series of different ways you can upcycle your clothes so that you don't have to buy new things, and so you don't have to buy new clothes and you can still enjoy your clothes. And in today's video, I'm going to be discussing how to tighten your clothing and how to hem it. How to do basic alterations so that if there's just little things you don't like about your clothing, how you can fix those things and make them into something you really like. This video I'll show you guys how I make my baby tees, which are super easy. It's just a combination of tightening your clothes and hemming them instead of just one or the other. You can do any of this by hand. I'm using a sewing machine because it's quicker, but you can do all this by hand. If you want to do this by hand and you don't have a sewing machine, you only have thread, all you have to do is just learn how to do a stretch stitch, which it kind of looks like an X, but there's lots of tutorials on YouTube. That's how I learned how to do it, and it does take longer than a sewing machine does, but I have altered my clothes that way a million times using the stretch stitch, and it's held up really well. Okay, so for upcycles, I'm going to be turning these two kind of baggy shirts into a shirt more like this, but more cropped. So I'm using this for like a reference of how tight I want it to be, and then I'm going to try them on and see how cropped I want them to be. I'm going to try on these two shirts and see what I need to do to alter them. And then over here are all the shirts that I'm going to be tightening, which I'm just going to try on and see how tight I want them to be. This is what I did. I laid out this shirt onto this larger shirt, and I'm just going to mark out with like, I don't know, I'm using an oil pastel, which I probably shouldn't use because I do think it stains, but I'm just gonna mark out where I want to pin. Okay, so I've marked it, and now I'm going to pin it. And for the armpits, you just kind of do this little swoop so that when you sew it, it'll just connect this with this. The rest of the shirts, except for one, I'm going to be using a tighter fit shirt for the reference. So let me show you. By the way, I just line up the tops of this with the top of that. It's a little high. Okay, so as you can see, this top is a little more fitted than the other top I was using, which is what I want to, why I want to use it for reference, because I want those shirts to be baggier, looser, like baggier and looser like that shirt is, but this one and these ones I want to be tighter, more to the skin. So I'm just going to mark where I want to sew and pin this shirt as well. And the shirt is also more form-fitting. If you notice, it kind of goes out like this. That is something that this shirt has that I want to transfer onto this blue long sleeve underneath. A tip I'm going to give everyone, as you can see I've marked this, is that you can always go smaller, but you can never go bigger after you cut off that excess fabric. So I'm going to start by I feel like this is even still bigger than I want it to be. So I am going to be bold and put my pins on this line instead of sewing on this line. But if I feel like I want to go smaller, I can. It's just this shirt is extremely This shirt is a really stretchy material, so I can probably get away with tightening it a lot. But for so far, I just drew a line from the armpit. The armpit is basically just like, I don't know if you can see this, kind of like, it's hard to see it, but it's like a circle basically. So you just kind of want to make that circle again, and you're just going to kind of sew along that line and then just go straight down again. If you are a beginner sewer, especially if you're new to a machine, do not stretch your fabric while you're sewing unless you want it to get scrunched up, because that will if you stretch the fabric while you're sewing, it won't make your thread any longer, so it will scrunch up your fabric. So if you have a stretchy fabric, just go nice and slow when you're sewing, and try not to stretch it out too much. It's also why with fabrics that are stretchy like this, you want to do a zigzag stitch as well, just to help give more stretch. And I'm doing a straight stitch and a zigzag stitch because I find that it holds really well if you do both of those. But you always want to do at least a zigzag stitch once for really for stretchy fabrics. Even for not stretchy fabrics, just in case there's more give and it's not so tight. When you're doing your stitching, you want to do a straight stitch, and then next to your straight stitch you want to do a zigzag stitch. The zigzag stitch will just help secure the straight stitch, and also because it's zigzagged, it will allow more stretch on the fabric. This means that the possibility of a tear in the thread is less likely. Okay, I want to mention more on the altering. So I have this shirt, which I believe I'll show a before and after if I haven't already showed it in this video, but basically it has this really weird boob thing. it bubbles weirdly in this one spot in the boob. So I sewed it together so that it pulls in some of the fabric, and I did kind of almost like a triangle sewing shape. I don't even know how to explain it, and I sewed it. Actually, I'll just show you what I did on it. As you can see, it just goes from a pointed end, and it just kind of goes out until over here back to the pointed end. And this is how I have decided to alter this tank top so that it doesn't have a weird gapey part on it, because it's a super cute tank top, but it gapes. This is what it looked like before, the sewing, which just looks terrible. But now that it's been sewn together, I'm going to try it on and see if the gape is gone. If the gape is gone, that means that I have done good and I can cut off this excess fabric. I wanted to use this video as a way to also show you how you can take pieces that are ruined and try and fix them. I have no idea if this piece will look fine, but what I did was I cut the top of it, and then I was like, oh, the armpits are too big, so I cut the armpits off, and then the armpit holes were giant, and I was like, okay, this looks terrible. I need to sew this up so that the armpit holes aren't so big. So that's what I did, and I will try it on, and if it looks good, I can show you guys how even objects or clothing pieces you think you've wrecked are salvageable. This may not be a good example, but I also am going to hem this shirt, which it looks fine, but I feel like the raw on the hemming makes it look bad when it's on. So I'm gonna see if I can fix it so that it looks better. And I ruined these two long sleeves in the exact same way, trying to make them off the shoulder. So I chopped them off a little more to, this is not even focused, so that it's chopped actually onto the shoulder part of the sleeves. And then I'm gonna hem them. It's the exact same shirt, but I actually did the exact same thing to it both times. They both look terrible. And I'm gonna see if this will help fix it. If you wreck your clothes, or if there's just something off with your clothing, that you can almost alter it anyway. Or if you have too many of the same shirts, see if this works. Now I'll have an off the shoulder white shirt and green shirt. If it doesn't work, I just have a rag, and I haven't really lost out because I already wrecked it. But yeah. Alright guys, now for cutting, you want to cut not too close to the seam, but you still want to get off most of the excess fabric. So I'm going to show you guys what that looks like. There you go. You want to leave enough room for you to be able to fix the stitch if something pops, to be able to add a stitch, etc. Okay, now that I've tightened them, we just have to flip the bottom part of the shirt up and sew around it to crop it, and then the t-shirts will be done. I'm going to crop this one, and I'm going to tighten this shirt and crop this one. And I'm going to show you guys on this shirt how to crop. I recommend trying on the shirt and then pinning it. I just did it with a little silver pin where you want, how cropped you want it to be. Just so you know for sure, because even with the reference of how short you want it to be, once you actually have the shirt on, you might want it to be more cropped or less cropped. All right, I just pinned it up like this. By the way, this shirt is inside out. And then you're just going to sew this, you're just going to sew along this edge, making sure not to sew the two different sides together. And then you can just cut off any excess. And you're going to sew it like you sewed these with 2 stitches. As I'm cropping, what I did was I cut, this is where I sewed it originally to make it tighter. I cut the thread that was tied together to, like at the end. I cut it and pulled the thread through just to the seam, and I'm going to retie it here so that when I cut off this excess fabric, the chances of this seam that's the seam that tightened it coming apart, the chances of that will lessen. So yeah, that's how you can do simple alterations on your clothes to upcycle, fix, or to make any clothes you're not sure about, clothes that you enjoy and will wear, which is better for the planet because you're not buying more clothes, better for your wallet, and honestly lots of fun. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed.